The Alpha King was never supposed to choose an Omega, especially not her. But when his wolf bowed before the broken girl the pack had already destroyed, the room fell silent. Because everyone there knew one thing. This choice would start a war. Hey, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, welcome to the pack. I'm so glad you're here with me today. Before we dive into this absolutely soul-wrenching story, do me a quick favor. Drop a comment below and tell me where in the world you're watching from. I love seeing how far our pack reaches. And if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button because trust me, you're going to want to hear how this one ends. This story? It's going to wreck you in the best way possible. Now, let's begin. Leora could smell her own fear. It clung to her skin like smoke, acrid and unmistakable, mixing with the lavender oil she'd scrubbed into her wrists in a desperate attempt to mask what she was. What she'd become. The great hall of the summit grounds stretched before her like a glittering trap, crystal chandeliers cascading light over marble floors, hundreds of wolves in their finest silks and leathers, all of them beautiful, whole, worthy. And then there was her. She stood at the very edge of the hall, pressed against the cold stone wall where the shadows pooled thickest. Her dress was simple, a pale gray that made her look washed out, ghostly. She'd chosen it on purpose. The goal tonight wasn't to be seen. It was to survive until she could leave. I still can't believe they let her come, a voice hissed nearby. Leora didn't flinch. She'd learned not to. Two she-wolves stood barely 10 feet away, their backs to her, but their voices carried. One wore emerald silk that hugged every curve. The other had her blonde hair swept into an intricate braid that probably took hours. They were beautiful, confident. Everything Leora used to be in another life. The council said attendance was mandatory for all unmated wolves, the blonde murmured, though her tone dripped with disdain. Even the broken ones. Mandatory doesn't mean she should actually show her face. The emerald one laughed, sharp and cruel. I mean, look at her. Standing there like a ghost. Her wolf is silent. She doesn't even have a scent anymore. Well, not a real one. Just that, wrong smell. Like decay. Leora's hands tightened into fists at her sides, nails biting into her palms. Her wolf, the part of her that should have snarled, should have risen in defense, remained as it always did. Silent. Absent. Gone. Do you think he even remembers her? The blonde asked, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Theron? I heard he hasn't spoken her name since the rejection. Why would he? She killed his sister. The words slammed into Leora's chest like claws. Her breath hitched, but she forced herself to remain still. Invisible. She doesn't even remember doing it, the emerald she-wolf continued. That's what makes it worse. The night of the blood moon, Theron's sister dead, and Leora found covered in her blood, unconscious. No memory. No explanation. Just broken. Cursed, the blonde corrected. That's what my mother calls her. A wolf without a wolf. An Omega without a purpose. Leora closed her eyes. They weren't wrong. 3 years ago, she had been Theron Ashford's chosen mate, a beta wolf with status, beauty, and a future. Then came the blood moon. Then came the tragedy she still couldn't remember. She'd woken in a pool of blood that wasn't hers, and Theron's sister was dead. The pack had demanded answers she couldn't give. Theron had looked at her with such hatred, such disgust, that it had shattered something inside her she didn't know could break. And then he'd rejected her. In front of the entire pack, he'd severed their bond and called her unworthy. Her wolf had retreated so deep inside her that Leora could no longer feel her presence. The healers said her wolf was still there, barely, but damaged beyond repair. Her scent had changed, soured, becoming something the pack couldn't recognize. Something wrong. The council had reclassified her. Broken Omega. The lowest rank. The weakest designation. A wolf even other Omegas pitted. Why is she even here? The emerald she-wolf muttered. The Alpha King isn't going to look at someone like her. He's been rejecting royalty for years. Daughters of alphas, women with bloodlines that trace back centuries, he's turned them all away. What makes her think? She doesn't, Leora whispered, so quietly even she barely heard it. She wasn't here because she thought she had a chance. She was here because attendance was mandatory, and defying a direct order from the Alpha King was a death sentence. The massive doors at the far end of the hall suddenly boomed shut. The entire room fell silent. Every conversation died mid-sentence. Every laugh choked off. Even the she-wolves who'd been mocking Leora turned toward the dais at the front of the hall, their expressions shifting to something between awe and terror. Because he was coming. Leora felt it before she saw him, a pressure in the air, a weight that made her lungs constrict and her pulse thunder in her ears. Power. Raw, undiluted, crushing power that rolled through the hall like a living thing. The double doors behind the dais opened, and Garrick Stormborn entered. The Alpha King. Leora had never seen him in person before. No one in her pack had. He rarely left the capital, and when he did, it was to end wars, not attend social gatherings. But she'd heard the stories. Everyone had. He was a monster in wolf skin. Ruthless. Untouchable. A king who'd taken the throne at 17 after slaughtering the traitors who'd killed his parents, and who'd spent the last decade crushing any pack that dared challenge his rule. He was also, she realized with a jolt of shock, devastatingly beautiful. Tall, taller than any wolf she'd ever seen, with shoulders broad enough to block out the light. His hair was black as midnight, slightly too long, brushing the collar of the dark shirt he wore. His jaw was sharp, brutal, the kind of face that looked carved from stone. But it was his eyes that stole her breath. Silver. Not gray. Not pale blue. Silver. Like moonlight given form. And they were sweeping over the crowd with the cold precision of a predator selecting prey. Leora shrank further into the shadows. Don't look at me. Don't see me. Please, just let this night end. Welcome. Garrick's voice rolled through the hall, deep and edged with something dangerous. He didn't smile. Didn't soften. You know why you're here. The Great Choosing. Every unmated wolf in the realm between the ages of 20 and 30 had been summoned. It happened once every decade, a chance for the Alpha King to select his queen. His mate. The woman who would stand beside him and help him rule. For years, Garrick had refused. But this year, the council had given him an ultimatum. Choose, or we choose for you. I will walk among you, Garrick continued, his silver eyes still scanning the crowd. If I find my mate, I will claim her. If I do not, you will all return to your packs, and we will not speak of this again. Murmurs rippled through the hall. Anticipation. Hope. Fear. Garrick descended the dais steps, and the crowd parted before him like water. He moved with the grace of a predator, silent, controlled, every step deliberate. She-wolves preened as he passed, lifting their chins, arching their backs, desperate to catch his attention. He ignored them all. Leora's heart pounded so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. She pressed herself flatter against the wall, praying the shadows would swallow her whole. Just stay invisible. Just stay. Garrick stopped walking. His head turned. Slowly. And his silver eyes locked directly onto her. No. No, no, no. Leora's breath caught in her throat. The entire hall seemed to tilt. Because the Alpha King, the most powerful wolf in the realm, the male who'd rejected princesses and royalty, was staring at her. And his wolf? She could feel it. Rising. Reaching. Kneeling. Okay, loves, I need you to drop a comment right now and tell me, do you think Garrick recognizes her? Or is something else going on? I want to hear your theories. Garrick Stormborn had smelled many things in his life. Blood. Battle. Betrayal. But he had never smelled anything like this. Lavender and ash. Moonlight buried under smoke. A scent so faint, so fractured, that it should have been forgettable. Instead, it was destroying him. His wolf, The beast he'd kept chained and controlled for over a decade lurched inside him. Not in aggression. Not in challenge. In recognition. In submission. His wolf, the apex predator that had torn apart armies and brought alphas to their knees, was bowing before a she-wolf pressed against the wall like she wanted to disappear into it. Impossible. Garrick's jaw locked. His hands curled into fists at his sides as he fought to maintain control. Around him, the crowd had gone deathly silent. He could feel their confusion, their shock, radiating through the hall like a physical thing. Because he hadn't just stopped walking. He'd frozen. And every eye in the room was now following his gaze to the corner where the shadows pooled deepest, and where a small, pale figure stood utterly still, her dark eyes wide with something that looked like terror. She was trembling. He could see it even from here, the way her hands shook, the way her breathing had gone rapid and shallow. She wore a dress the color of smoke, shapeless and plain, clearly chosen to make her invisible. Her dark hair hung loose around her face, partially obscuring her features. But Garrick didn't need to see her clearly. His wolf already knew. Mate. The word echoed through every cell in his body, primal and undeniable. Our mate. No, Garrick breathed, so quietly that only those closest to him could hear. It can't be. But his feet were already moving. Not away. Toward her. Leora couldn't breathe. The Alpha King was walking toward her. Every step he took seemed to shatter the air between them, closing the distance with terrifying inevitability. Wolves scrambled out of his path, their expressions ranging from confusion to outrage. Run, her mind screamed. Run, run, run. But her body wouldn't obey. She was frozen, pinned in place by the weight of his gaze. Those silver eyes hadn't left her face, hadn't even blinked, and the intensity in them made her feel like she was being seen for the first time in 3 years. Like he was looking past her skin, past her scars, straight into the broken, hollow thing she'd become. Move, someone hissed nearby. Get out of his way. But Leora couldn't move. And Garrick didn't stop. He walked past Lady Seraphina Blackthorn, whose family had ruled the Northern Territories for 8 generations. Past Celeste Ravencroft, whose beauty was so legendary that songs had been written about her. Past a dozen ranked she-wolves, each one perfect, powerful, worthy. And he stopped directly in front of Leora. The air between them crackled with something that made her skin prickle. Up close, he was even more devastating, taller than she'd realized, broad-shouldered and powerful in a way that made her feel impossibly small. His scent hit her like a physical blow, pine and winter storms, cold and clean and sharp. For 3 years, Leora's wolf had been silent. For 3 years, she'd felt nothing but emptiness where her wolf should have been. But now, something stirred. Deep inside her, so faint she almost thought she'd imagined it, her wolf whimpered. Not in fear. In longing. Garrick's eyes narrowed slightly, as if he'd heard it too. His gaze raked over her face, studying her with an intensity that made her want to look away. But she couldn't. She was caught, trapped in the silver of his eyes like a moth in moonlight. What's your name? His voice was low, rough, edged with something she couldn't identify. Leora's throat had gone completely dry. Around them, she could hear gasps, whispers, the rustle of silk as people craned their necks to see what was happening. Leora, she managed, and hated how broken her voice sounded. Leora Ashwin. Something flickered in Garrick's expression. Recognition? No, it was darker than that. Older. Ashwin, he repeated, and the way he said it made the name sound like a verdict. Of the Silver Pine Pack. It wasn't a question. Leora nodded, unable to speak. The broken Omega, a voice said from somewhere in the crowd. Leora couldn't see who'd spoken, but she heard the contempt clearly. Your Majesty, she's not even ranked. Her wolf is silent. She was rejected, another voice added, female this time, sharp with disdain. By Beta Theron Ashford. For murder. The word hung in the air like poison. Leora flinched, her eyes dropping to the floor. Shame burned through her chest, hot and familiar. This was why she'd stood in the shadows. This was why she'd wanted to be invisible. Because the moment anyone looked at her, they saw only one thing. Broken. Look at me. Garrick's voice cut through her spiral like a blade. Leora's head jerked up involuntarily, and she found herself staring once again into those impossible silver eyes. Did you kill her? Garrick asked, his tone utterly neutral. Theron Ashford's sister. Did you take her life? The entire hall seemed to hold its breath. Leora's hands were shaking so badly now that she had to clasp them together to keep them still. I don't know, she whispered. I don't remember. I woke up covered in her blood, but I can't. She's lying, someone spat. She's. Silence. Garrick didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. The single word rolled through the hall with such absolute authority that every voice died instantly. Even Leora felt the command in her bones, the undeniable power of an alpha king who could bend entire packs to his will with nothing but his presence. The hall was so quiet that Leora could hear her own heartbeat thundering in her ears. Garrick's gaze hadn't left her face. He studied her for another long moment, and Leora had the strangest sensation that he was seeing things she'd never shown anyone. The cracks in her soul. The scars that didn't show on her skin. The way she'd learned to make herself small, invisible, nothing. Tell me, Leora Ashwin, he said quietly, and there was something almost gentle in his tone now. Do you know what you are? Leora's breath hitched. I'm broken. No. The word was soft, but it carried the weight of absolute certainty. You are not broken, Garrick said, and his hand rose slowly, carefully, giving her time to pull away until his fingers brushed the side of her face. The touch sent electricity racing through her entire body. Leora gasped, her eyes going wide. Because her wolf, her silent, absent wolf, had just responded. Not with fear. With recognition. You are mine, Garrick said, and his voice dropped to a low rumble that resonated in her chest. And I am claiming you. The hall erupted. Your Majesty, you can't be serious. She's an Omega. A broken Omega. This is madness. The Council will never. She murdered someone. Voices overlapped, rising in pitch and fury. Leora could see the shock on every face, the outrage, the disbelief. She saw Lady Seraphina's expression twist with rage. Saw Celeste Ravencroft's perfect face go pale with fury. But Garrick didn't move. His hand remained against Leora's cheek, gentle despite the chaos erupting around them. His thumb brushed across her cheekbone in a gesture so tender it made her chest ache. You're afraid, he murmured, and it wasn't a question. Leora nodded, unable to speak. Good, Garrick said. So am I. Before she could process that impossible admission, he turned to face the crowd. And the expression on his face made every wolf in the hall take a step back. I am Garrick Stormborn, he said, his voice cutting through the chaos like a blade through silk. Alpha King of the Realm. And I have made my choice. Your Majesty, please reconsider. An older man stepped forward, his robes marking him as a council member. The girl is damaged. Her wolf is hers, Garrick interrupted, and there was ice in his tone now. And she is mine. I have claimed Leora Ashwin as my mate and future queen. If anyone in this hall has an objection. He paused, his silver eyes sweeping over the crowd with predatory focus. Speak now. The silence that followed was absolute. Leora could feel the weight of hundreds of stares, could sense the fury and confusion rolling off the crowd in waves. But no one spoke. No one dared. Because they all knew what that pause meant. It was a challenge. And challenging the Alpha King was suicide. No, Garrick's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Then let me be perfectly clear. He released Leora's face and took a single step forward, his presence expanding to fill the entire hall. When he spoke again, his voice carried the full weight of his authority, not just as a king, but as the apex predator of their entire species. Leora Ashen is under my protection. She is my chosen mate. And if anyone, council member, alpha, or otherwise, attempts to harm her, question her, or speak against her claim. His eyes flashed, and for just a moment, Leora could have sworn they turned pure silver. I will burn your pack to the ground and salt the earth where it stood. The threat hung in the air like smoke. Do we understand each other? Slowly, reluctantly, heads began to nod. Garrick held the silence for another beat, then turned back to Leora. The terrifying Alpha King who'd just threatened genocide vanished, replaced by something softer. Almost uncertain. He extended his hand toward her. Will you come with me? He asked quietly. Leora stared at his hand. At the impossible choice being offered. She could refuse. She could stay here, return to her pack, go back to being invisible and broken and nothing. Or she could take his hand and step into a future that terrified her more than anything she'd ever known. Her fingers trembled as she reached out and placed her hand in his. Garrick's fingers closed around hers, warm and solid and real. Then let's go, he murmured. Before they remember how to be stupid. He led her through the crowd, which parted before them like water. Leora kept her eyes on the floor, unable to look at the faces around her. But she could feel their stares, hear their whispers. The broken Omega. The Alpha King's mate. This will start a war. As they reached the doors, Garrick paused and glanced back at her. You're shaking, he observed. I'm terrified, Leora admitted. For the first time, something that might have been a smile crossed Garrick's face. Good, he said again. That means you're smart. And then he pulled her through the doors, away from the crowd, away from the stares and whispers and hatred, into a future neither of them could have predicted. Garrick's private wing of the summit grounds was nothing like the opulent hall they'd just left. It was quieter, darker. The corridors were lined with ancient stone instead of marble, and the torches that lit their way cast dancing shadows across the walls. Leora's hand was still clasped in Garrick's, his grip firm but not painful, as if he expected her to bolt at any moment. He wasn't wrong. Every instinct she had was screaming at her to run, to pull away from this impossibly powerful male who'd just claimed her in front of the entire realm. But another part of her, the part where her wolf had stirred for the first time in 3 years, was pulling her toward him with a force she couldn't explain. Where are we going? Leora asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Somewhere we can talk, Garrick replied without looking back. Without an audience. They turned a corner, and he pushed open a heavy wooden door that led into what appeared to be a private study. A fire burned in the hearth, casting warm light across leather furniture and walls lined with books. It should have been comforting. Instead, it felt like a cage. Garrick released her hand as soon as they were inside, and Leora immediately felt the loss of contact like a physical ache. She watched as he moved to the far side of the room, putting distance between them, as if he didn't trust himself to stay close. Sit, he said, gesturing to one of the chairs near the fire. Leora remained standing. Why did you choose me? The question came out sharper than she'd intended, edged with 3 years of pain and confusion. Garrick turned to face her, and in the firelight, his features looked almost harsh. Beautiful, but cruel. Because my wolf recognized you, he said simply. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. Garrick's jaw tightened. The moment you lifted your head in that hall, my wolf, he cut himself off, shaking his head. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you're here now and you're safe. Safe? Leora let out a bitter laugh. You just declared me your mate in front of every ranked pack in the realm. You threatened to burn them down if they objected. How is that safe? Because now they can't touch you. The certainty in his voice made her chest tighten. Leora wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly cold despite the fire. You don't know what you've done, she whispered. You don't know what I am. Her voice broke. They're right. I'm broken. My wolf is silent. I can't even remember what happened the night Theron's sister died, but I woke up covered in her blood. Do you believe you killed her? The question was quiet, but it landed like a blow. Leora's throat constricted. I don't know. That's not what I asked. She looked up at him, meeting those impossible silver eyes. No, she admitted, the words scraping out of her. No, I don't believe I killed her. But I don't have any other explanation, and the entire pack. The pack is wrong. Garrick said it with such absolute conviction that Leora felt something crack inside her chest. How can you possibly know that? She demanded. You don't know me. You don't know anything about. I know your scent is wrong, Garrick interrupted, taking a step toward her. I know your wolf shouldn't be silent. And I know that when I touched you, something in you responded. Leora's breath caught. She couldn't deny it. That moment in the hall when his fingers had brushed her cheek, her wolf had stirred. Actually stirred. After 3 years of nothing but emptiness. What does that mean? She whispered. It means, Garrick started, then stopped abruptly. His expression shifted, became guarded. It means we have time to figure this out. He was hiding something. Leora could see it in the way his shoulders tensed, in the way he wouldn't quite meet her eyes. But before she could press him, the door to the study burst open. A man strode in tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair and eyes that flashed with barely contained fury. He wore the insignia of the royal guard on his chest. Are you out of your mind? The man snarled, slamming the door behind him. Good evening to you too, Roman, Garrick said dryly. Roman, the king's beta, Leora realized looked like he wanted to put his fist through a wall. The council is losing their collective shit. Half the alphas are demanding an emergency session. Lady Seraphina's father is threatening to withdraw his territories from your rule. He jabbed a finger toward Leora without looking at her. And you chose her? The broken Omega everyone knows is. Careful, Garrick said softly. The single word made Roman's jaw snap shut. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Leora could feel the power rolling off Garrick now, not the controlled authority he'd shown in the hall, but something darker, older, more dangerous. That's my mate you're talking about, Garrick continued, his voice still quiet but edged with menace. And if you value your tongue, you'll choose your next words very carefully. Roman stared at him for a long moment, then dragged a hand through his hair. Garrick, I'm trying to help you. Do you have any idea what you've just done? I claimed my mate. You claimed a liability. Roman finally looked at Leora, and his expression was more pitying than cruel. No offense. Some taken, Leora muttered. She's accused of murder, Roman pressed. Her own pack rejected her. Her wolf is silent. The council is never going to accept. The council doesn't have a choice. The council has every choice. Roman's voice rose. They can declare the bond invalid. They can force you to choose another mate. They can. They can try, Garrick interrupted. And they'll die trying. The certainty in his voice sent chills down Leora's spine. Roman shook his head slowly. You're going to start a war over this. Over her. Yes, Garrick said simply. I am. The room fell silent. Leora's mind was reeling. This couldn't be happening. This powerful, terrifying Alpha King couldn't actually be willing to risk everything, his throne, his alliances, his entire realm, for a broken Omega he'd met less than an hour ago. It was insane. It was impossible. Why? The word burst out of her before she could stop it. Why would you do that? You don't even know me. Garrick turned to look at her, and the expression on his face made her breath catch. Because I've been waiting for you my entire life, he said quietly. And now that I've found you, I'm not letting you go. Not for the council. Not for the Pax. His silver eyes blazed. Not for anything. Before Leora could respond, another sound cut through the tension, a sharp, rhythmic knock on the door. Roman moved to answer it, and a young woman in servant's clothes entered, her face pale. Your Majesty, she said, her voice shaking slightly. There's someone here demanding to see you. He says it's urgent. Tell them I'm busy, Garrick said without looking away from Leora. He says his name is Theron Ashford, the servant continued. And he's demanding the return of his property. The air in the room turned to ice. Leora felt the blood drain from her face. No. No, please. His what? Garrick's voice was deceptively soft. The servant swallowed hard. He says the Omega you claimed still bears the remnants of their rejected bond. He says she belongs to his pack, and that you have no right to send him in. Garrick, Roman started. Now. The servant fled. Leora was shaking so badly she had to grab the back of a chair to stay upright. She hadn't seen Theron since the rejection. Hadn't heard his voice in 3 years. The thought of facing him now here, with Garrick. Breathe, Garrick murmured, suddenly at her side. His hand came to rest on the small of her back, steadying her. He can't hurt you. I won't let him. You don't understand, Leora whispered. He hates me. He blames me for his sister's death. If he's here. The door opened, and Theron Ashford walked in. He looked exactly as Leora remembered, tall and handsome, with golden hair and the confident bearing of a beta wolf. But there was something harder in his face now, something cruel in the set of his mouth. His eyes found Leora immediately, and the hatred in them made her want to disappear. So it's true, Theron said, his voice dripping with disgust. The Alpha King has claimed my pack's trash. Garrick moved so fast that Leora didn't even see him. One moment he was beside her, the next he had Theron slammed against the wall, his forearm pressed against the other man's throat. I'm going to give you one chance to rephrase that, Garrick said quietly. Theron's eyes bulged, but he managed to choke out, she's a murderer. She's mine. Garrick's voice dropped to a growl that raised every hair on Leora's arms. And you rejected her. Which means you have no claim, no rights, and no reason to be in this room. The bond, Theron gasped. Remnants, still there. Then I'll sever them myself. Garrick released Theron, who slumped against the wall, gasping for air. But the Alpha King wasn't done. He turned to face Theron fully, and the power that rolled off him now made the room feel too small. You rejected her, Garrick said, each word precise and cutting. You called her unworthy. You let your pack treat her like something broken and disposable. And now you have the audacity to come here and claim ownership. She killed my sister, Theron snarled. Did she? Garrick's eyes narrowed. Were you there? Did you see it happen? She was covered in Elena's blood. That's not an answer. Theron's face twisted with rage. The healers examined her. They found Elena's blood under her nails, her DNA on. And what did Leora say happened? She doesn't remember. Theron spat. Convenient, isn't it? My sister's dead, and the last person to see her alive conveniently has no memory of that night. Or, Garrick said softly, someone made very sure she wouldn't remember. The implication hung in the air like poison. Theron's face went pale. You're insane. No one would. Get out. The command cracked through the room like a whip. Theron flinched, and even Roman took an involuntary step back. The next time I see you, Garrick continued, his voice dropping to something that barely sounded human, it will be because I've decided your pack no longer deserves to exist. Leave. For a moment, Leora thought Theron would argue. But whatever he saw in Garrick's face made him think better of it. He shot one last hate-filled look at Leora, then turned and stalked out of the room. The door slammed behind him. Leora's legs gave out. She would have hit the floor if Garrick hadn't caught her, his arms wrapping around her waist and pulling her against his chest. The contact should have terrified her. Instead, it felt like the only solid thing in a world that had just tilted sideways. I've got you, Garrick murmured against her hair. I've got you. He's going to make this worse, Leora whispered. He's going to tell everyone that you're protecting a murderer. That you chose a broken Omega over the good of the realm. The Council will use this against you. They'll. Let them try. Garrick pulled back just enough to cup her face in his hands, forcing her to look at him. Listen to me very carefully, Leora, he said, his silver eyes burning into hers. I don't care what the Council says. I don't care what Theron claims. And I don't care if every alpha in the realm lines up to object. His thumbs brushed across her cheekbones, the gesture impossibly gentle. You are my mate. And I protect what's mine. But why? Leora's voice cracked. You don't know me. You don't know if I know enough. How can you possibly? Because you're mine, Garrick said again, and there was something almost desperate in his voice now. Because my wolf recognized you the moment you lifted your head. Because when I touch you, you don't feel broken, you feel like home. Leora's breath caught. I need you to trust me, Garrick continued quietly. Can you do that? Even if nothing else makes sense, can you trust that I will keep you safe? Leora stared at him, at this impossible male who'd just turned her entire world upside down. Every logical thought in her mind was screaming at her to say no. To run. To protect herself before this ended in more pain and blood and loss. But deep inside her, in the place where her wolf had been silent for 3 years, something was stirring again. Not in fear. In hope. I'll try, she whispered. Something in Garrick's expression softened. That's all I'm asking. He released her face, but kept one hand wrapped around hers, as if afraid she might disappear if he let go completely. Roman, he said without looking at his beta. Prepare my private quarters. Leora will be staying there tonight. Garrick, the council is going to want to meet with her, Roman started. Tomorrow, Garrick interrupted. Tonight, she rests. And no one disturbs her. Understood. Roman hesitated, then nodded. Understood. As the beta left, Leora looked up at Garrick. What happens tomorrow? Tomorrow, Garrick said quietly, we face them together. The council, the packs, all of it. His grip on her hand tightened slightly. But tonight you're safe. I promise you that. Leora wanted to believe him. But as she let him lead her through the corridors toward his private quarters, she couldn't shake the feeling that safety was an illusion. Because deep down, beneath the stirring of her wolf and the impossible pull she felt toward this dangerous, beautiful male, she knew one terrifying truth. Whatever had happened the night of the blood moon, whatever had broken her and stolen her memories and left her covered in blood, wasn't finished with her yet. And when the truth finally came out, it was going to destroy everything. Okay, stop, I need your theories right now. What do you think happened the night Theron's sister died? Is Leora really guilty? Is Theron hiding something? And more importantly, why does Garrick seem to know more than he's saying? Drop your wildest theories in the comments, because I am living for your thoughts on this. Garrick's private quarters were nothing like Leora had expected. She'd anticipated opulence, gold and marble, and the kind of excessive wealth that reminded you exactly who held all the power. Instead, the rooms were almost Spartan. Dark wood furniture. Stone walls softened by thick rugs. A massive bed with midnight blue coverings that looked soft enough to sink into. Floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the mountains, where the moon hung full and heavy in the sky. It should have been beautiful. Instead, it made her feel impossibly small. The bathing room is through there, Garrick said, gesturing to a door on the left. There are clothes in the wardrobe that should fit. If you need anything at all, just pull that cord. He pointed to a silk rope near the bed. Someone will come immediately. Leora nodded mutely, still trying to process everything that had happened in the last 2 hours. She'd gone from invisible to claimed by the Alpha King. From broken and forgotten to the center of a political firestorm that could tear the realm apart. It was too much. All of it was too much. Leora. She looked up to find Garrick watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Concern? Uncertainty? It seemed impossible that someone as powerful as him could look uncertain about anything. I know this is overwhelming, he said quietly. I know you're afraid. But I meant what I said, you're safe here. No one will hurt you. Not while I'm breathing. And what about when the council demands answers? Leora asked, her voice steadier than she felt. What about when they ask me to explain what happened that night? When they want proof that I'm not, she couldn't say the word. Couldn't force murderer past her lips. Garrick crossed the distance between them in 2 strides. He didn't touch her, but he was close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body, could smell that intoxicating scent of pine and winter storms. Then we'll face them together, he said. And we'll find the truth. Whatever it is. What if the truth is that I'm guilty? The words came out barely above a whisper, but Garrick heard them. His jaw tightened. You're not. You can't know that. Yes, he said, his silver eyes boring into hers. I can. Before Leora could ask what he meant, Garrick stepped back, putting distance between them again. As if the proximity was costing him something. Get some rest, he said. Tomorrow is going to be difficult. Where will you sleep? The question escaped before Leora could stop it. Something flickered in Garrick's expression, dark and hungry and quickly suppressed. There's a sitting room through that door. I'll be there if you need me. But not here, Leora thought. Not close. She should have been relieved. Instead, she felt oddly abandoned. Garrick, she said as he turned to leave. He paused, looking back at her. Why do you keep your distance from me? Is it because you think I'm... No, the word was sharp, almost harsh. It's because if I stay too close, I won't be able to stop myself from touching you. And if I touch you, he trailed off, his hands curling into fists at his sides. It's not safe. Not yet. Not safe for who? For both of us. And then he was gone, disappearing through the door and leaving Leora alone in a room that suddenly felt far too large and empty. Leora didn't sleep. She tried. She bathed in water that smelled of lavender and honey, washing away the remnants of the disastrous evening. She changed into a soft nightgown she'd found in the wardrobe, silk that whispered against her skin. She climbed into the massive bed and tried to quiet her racing thoughts. But every time she closed her eyes, she saw Theron's face twisted with hatred. She killed my sister. And beneath that, older and darker, the fragments of memories she couldn't quite grasp. Blood on her hands. Screaming. A sensation of falling into darkness, while something inside her broke. At some point past midnight, Leora gave up on sleep entirely. She wrapped herself in a robe she'd found and moved to the windows, staring out at the moonlit mountains. The full moon seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat, and Leora felt an answering pull deep in her chest. Her wolf. For 3 years, that part of her had been silent. Dead, the healers had said. Damaged beyond repair. But tonight she'd felt it stir. Twice now. Once when Garrick had touched her in the Great Hall, and again when he'd held her after Theron left. What did it mean? A sound made her turn. The door to the sitting room had opened, and Garrick stood in the doorway. He'd removed his formal jacket and now wore only a white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows. His dark hair was disheveled, as if he'd been running his hands through it. You should be sleeping, he said. So should you. I don't sleep much on full moons. Garrick moved into the room, his movements careful, controlled. My wolf gets restless. Is that why you won't come near me? Leora asked. Because it's a full moon and your wolf is. My wolf wants to claim you properly. The words came out rough, almost pained. To complete the mate bond. To mark you so thoroughly that every wolf in the realm will know you're mine. His silver eyes flashed. And you're not ready for that. Not after everything that's happened tonight. Leora's breath caught. The mate bond. She'd almost forgotten claiming someone publicly was one thing, but completing the bond required intimacy. A physical and spiritual connection that would tie them together for life. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, a small, traitorous part of her wondered what it would feel like. To be claimed by this powerful, dangerous male. To be wanted after 3 years of being treated like something broken and disposable. What if I said I was ready? The words escaped before she could stop them. Garrick went very still. Leora. I'm not saying I am, she added quickly. I'm just asking. Hypothetically. Hypothetically, Garrick repeated, and there was something dark in his tone now. I would tell you that completing a mate bond isn't something you do because you feel obligated. Or because you're afraid of what happens if you don't. He took a step closer. It's something you do because you can't not do it. Because the thought of being apart from your mate is more painful than anything else in the world. Is that how you feel? Leora whispered. About me. Garrick's jaw clenched. For a long moment, he didn't answer. Then, from the moment I saw you, my wolf has been clawing at me to complete the bond. Every instinct I have is screaming at me to mark you, claim you, make you mine in every way possible. His hands curled into fists again. But I won't. Not until you want it. Not until you look at me and see something other than the male who turned your life upside down. Leora's heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. She crossed the room slowly, watching as Garrick tracked her movement with predatory focus. You want to know what I see when I look at you? She asked. Probably someone terrifying. Someone who stood in front of an entire realm and claimed me when no one else wanted me. Leora stopped just inches from him. Someone who threatened to burn down packs to keep me safe. Someone who looked at the broken Omega everyone else had already thrown away and saw something worth protecting. Garrick's eyes had darkened to molten silver. Leora, you need to step back. Why? Because I'm barely holding on to my control as it is, and if you keep looking at me like that. Like what? Like you might actually want me. The vulnerability in those words made Leora's chest ache. This powerful alpha king, this male who could command armies and destroy packs with a word, was standing before her looking almost uncertain. I don't know what I want, Leora admitted. Everything is happening so fast, and I'm terrified and confused, and I don't understand why my wolf is responding to you when she's been silent for 3 years. She paused. But I know I don't want to be alone tonight. Garrick closed his eyes. Don't ask me that. I'm not asking you to complete the bond. I'm just asking you to stay. Leora's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. Please. For a long moment, Garrick didn't move. Then, slowly, he opened his eyes. If I stay, he said quietly, I stay on top of the covers. Fully clothed. And you stay on your side of the bed. Okay. And if at any point you want me to leave, I'll tell you. Garrick studied her face, searching for something. Whatever he found must have satisfied him, because he nodded once. All right. They moved to the bed in silence. Leora climbed under the covers, her heart still racing, while Garrick settled on top of them, keeping a careful distance between them. He stared up at the ceiling, every line of his body tense. Garrick. Yes. Why does my wolf respond to you? She felt him go still beside her. When he spoke, his voice was carefully neutral. What do you mean? For 3 years, I felt nothing where my wolf should be. Just emptiness. But when you touch me, she stirs. Leora turned her head to look at him. Why? Garrick was quiet for so long that Leora thought he wouldn't answer. Then, because mate bonds can do things other connections can't. They can reach parts of us that are hidden. Buried. Bound. Bound? Leora's breath caught. What do you mean bound? But Garrick had already closed his eyes, his jaw set in a way that suggested the conversation was over. Sleep, Leora, he said quietly. We'll talk more tomorrow. Leora wanted to press him. Wanted to demand answers to the questions that had been eating at her for 3 years. But exhaustion was finally catching up to her, and the warmth of Garrick's presence beside her, solid and safe and real, was making it impossible to stay awake. Her eyes drifted closed. And for the first time in 3 years, Leora dreamed. She was running through a forest, branches tearing at her skin and clothes. Someone was chasing her, something dark and terrible that made her wolf howl in terror. You can't run forever, a voice whispered in the darkness. We bound you once. We can do it again. No, Leora screamed, but her voice came out wrong, distorted, broken. Please. Hands grabbed her, yanking her backward. She fell, and there was blood everywhere on her hands, her clothes, soaking into the earth beneath her. And standing above her, silhouetted against the full moon, was a figure she couldn't quite see. But she knew, somehow she knew, that this was the person who'd broken her. Forget, the figure commanded, and power rolled through the word like thunder. Forget everything. Something inside Leora shattered. She woke gasping, her body jerking upright so violently that she nearly fell out of bed. Strong arms caught her before she could, pulling her against a warm chest. "Easy," Garrick's voice rumbled against her ear. "Easy, you're safe." It was just a dream. No, Leora choked out. No, it wasn't. It was a memory. She felt Garrick go rigid. "What did you see?" "Someone bound me." The words tumbled out in a rush. "That night, the night Theron's sister died, someone bound my wolf. They commanded me to forget, and something inside me broke," and her voice cracked. "Garrick, I didn't kill Elena. I couldn't have. My wolf was already bound by the time." She cut herself off, realization crashing over her like a wave. If her wolf had been bound before Elena died, then she couldn't have shifted. Couldn't have used her claws or teeth. Couldn't have committed murder as a wolf. Which meant someone else had killed Elena. And they'd made sure Leora would take the blame. "Who?" Leora whispered, looking up at Garrick with wide eyes. "Who would do that to me? And why?" Garrick's expression was grim. "That," he said quietly, "is what we're going to find out." Before Leora could respond, a sharp knock echoed through the room. Garrick released her immediately, moving to the door with predatory grace. "What?" he snapped. Roman's voice came from the other side, tight with urgency. "We have a problem. The council has called an emergency session. They're demanding to see you and Leora immediately. Tell them to wait until morning." "Garrick, they're not asking. They're demanding." A pause. "And they've brought a truth seeker." Leora's blood ran cold. A truth seeker. A rare type of wolf with the ability to compel absolute honesty from anyone they questioned. If the council had brought one, they weren't here to listen. They were here to prove she was guilty. And then they'd use that proof to force Garrick to reject her. Garrick's hands clenched into fists. "How long do we have?" "They're already waiting in the judgment hall," Roman said. "And Garrick?" "They brought Theron with them. As a witness." The room seemed to tilt. Leora looked at Garrick, at this male who'd promised to keep her safe, and saw her own fear reflected in his silver eyes. "What do we do?" she whispered. Garrick's jaw set with determination. He crossed the room and took her hands in his grip firm and steady. "We face them," he said. "Together. And we make them see the truth, all of it." His eyes blazed. "But Leora, I need you to trust me. No matter what they say, no matter what they try to make you believe, trust that I won't let them take you from me. Even if the truth seeker proves I'm guilty, you're not guilty." Garrick's voice was absolute. "And by the time this night is over, everyone in that hall is going to know it." He pulled her to her feet, and Leora felt her wolf stir again, stronger this time, as if responding to his certainty. "How can you be so sure?" she asked. Garrick's expression shifted into something almost feral. "Because I know what they did to you," he said quietly. "I know who ordered it. And I know why." His eyes met hers. "But before I can prove it, I need you to be brave one more time. Can you do that for me?" Leora's hands were shaking, but she nodded. "Good." Garrick released one of her hands, but kept the other clasped firmly in his. "Then let's go remind the council exactly who they're dealing with." As they moved toward the door, Leora couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. That whatever truth came out in that judgment hall, it would shatter everything she thought she knew about herself, about her past, and about the male whose hand she was holding like a lifeline. Leora couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't process what Garrick had just said. 7 years. 7 years of her life, of their life together, erased. Stolen. Made to disappear as if they'd never existed. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "No, that's not, I would remember. I would know if I'd." "They didn't just erase the memories," Garrick said, his voice raw with pain. "They rewrote them. Made you believe you'd spent those years living a normal life in your pack. Training. Growing. Preparing to meet Theron." His hands were trembling now. "But that's not what happened." What really happened was... Stop. Leora took a step back, her newly awakened wolf howling in confusion and rage. Just stop. I can't, this is too much. All of it is too much. Leora. You knew. Her voice cracked. This entire time, you knew we had a history, and you didn't tell me. You let me believe. She pressed her hands to her temples, trying to make sense of the chaos in her mind. Why didn't you tell me the truth from the beginning? Because I couldn't. Garrick's composure finally shattered. Do you think I wanted to keep this from you? Do you think it didn't destroy me watching you look at me like a stranger? He took a step toward her, then stopped himself. The binding they placed on you wasn't just about your wolf. It was about us. If I'd told you the truth too soon, before the binding was broken, it would have killed you. How convenient, Leora said, and she hated the bitterness in her own voice. It's not convenient, it's true. Garrick ran a hand through his hair, desperation clear on his face. The binding was designed to protect itself. If you'd tried to remember me, tried to access those memories, the backlash would have stopped your heart. His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. I've spent 3 years searching for a way to break the binding without killing you. 3 years of watching you suffer from a distance, unable to help, unable to. 3 years. Leora's eyes widened. You knew where I was for 3 years and you never. I couldn't approach you. Garrick's voice rose. Every wolf in the realm was watching me. The council was waiting for me to make a move so they could finish what they started. If I'd gone to you, if I'd tried to help you, they would have killed us both. So instead you waited, Leora said coldly. You waited until the perfect moment to swoop in and play the hero. To claim me in front of everyone and... I waited, Garrick interrupted, his voice breaking, because I would rather spend 1,000 years watching you from the shadows than risk losing you forever. The words hung in the air between them. Leora felt tears burning behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. I don't even know who I'm supposed to be anymore. Am I the broken Omega who killed someone? Am I the Luna Queen the Council tried to destroy? Or am I someone else entirely, someone I can't even remember? You're all of them, Celeste said quietly. The truth seeker had remained silent during their exchange, but now she stepped forward. And you're none of them. The person you were 7 years ago is gone. The person you became under the binding is fading. Who you choose to be now, that's entirely up to you. That's not helpful, Leora said. Truth rarely is, Celeste replied. Her wide eyes found Leora's face. But here's another truth. The bond between you and the Alpha King isn't just destiny. It's not just fate. It's choice. 7 years ago, you chose him. And he chose you. The Council tried to destroy that choice, but they couldn't. Because real love, true mate bonds can't be erased. They can only be buried. And what if I don't want it? Leora's voice came out barely above a whisper. What if I don't want a bond one can't remember? A love I have no connection to? The pain that flashed across Garrick's face was so raw that Leora almost took the words back. Then I'll let you go, he said quietly. If that's what you truly want, his voice broke. I'll find a way to sever the mate bond. You'll be free of me. Free of all of this. Garrick, Roman stepped forward, alarm clear on his face. You can't be serious. Severing a true mate bond will kill me, Garrick finished. I know. His silver eyes never left Leora's face. But I survived losing her once. If she asks me to, I'll do it again. Even if it means I don't survive this time. The room had gone deathly silent. Leora stared at this male, this impossible, infuriating, self-sacrificing male, who was offering to die rather than force her into a bond she didn't want. And something inside her screamed. Not in fear. In rage. You're an idiot, she said, her voice shaking. An absolute, self-sacrificing idiot. Garrick blinked. I what? You think I want you to die for me? Leora demanded. You think that's what I need right now? More guilt? More loss? More. She cut herself off, pressing her hands to her face. I'm angry at you. I'm furious that you kept this from me. But I don't want you dead. Then what do you want? Garrick asked softly. Leora lowered her hands to look at him. I want the truth. All of it. No more secrets. No more holding back to protect me. Her voice hardened. Tell me what happened 7 years ago. Tell me how we met. Tell me everything. Garrick was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. All right, he said. But not here. Not in front of, he gestured to the council members still kneeling around them. This conversation needs to be private. No, the word came out sharper than Leora intended. No more privacy. No more shadows. If we're going to do this, if I'm going to even consider trying to remember, then everyone needs to hear it. The council. The packs. All of them need to know exactly what they took from us. A muscle in Garrick's jaw twitched. But after a moment, he inclined his head. As you wish. He turned to face the assembled council members, and when he spoke, his voice carried the full weight of his authority. 7 years ago, he began, I attended a summit in the Northern Territories. I was young, barely 21, and newly crowned after my parents' assassination. The council wanted me to choose a mate from among the ranked families. To form alliances. To secure my position. Leora listened, her newly awakened wolf unnaturally still inside her. But I'd already rejected every potential mate they'd presented, Garrick continued. Because my wolf knew they weren't right. Knew we were waiting for someone else. He paused. And then I met her. A young woman from the Silver Pine Pack who'd come to the summit with her father. She was 20 years old. Beautiful. Smart. And completely unimpressed by me. Despite everything, Leora felt her lips twitch. Unimpressed? Completely, Garrick said, and something that might have been a smile ghosted across his face. You told me I was arrogant. Self-important. And that I needed to stop strutting around like I owned the world. I said that. Leora couldn't quite imagine herself being that bold. But then again, she couldn't imagine a lot of things right now. You did. And my wolf fell in love with you on the spot. Garrick's expression softened. We spent 3 days at that summit just talking. You told me about your mother, how she died when you were young, and how your father had raised you alone. You told me about your dreams of becoming a healer. About how you didn't want to be defined by your rank or your bloodline. He paused. And I told you things I'd never told anyone. About the nightmares I had after my parents died. About the weight of the crown. About how terrified I was that I'd fail everyone who depended on me. Leora's chest felt tight. She tried to picture it, tried to imagine herself young and fearless, talking to the Alpha King like he was just another person. But the memories wouldn't come. By the end of the summit, Garrick continued, we both knew. The mate bond was there, unmistakable and undeniable. So I claimed you. Right there in front of everyone, I claimed you as my mate and future queen. Let me guess, Leora said bitterly. The council objected. Not at first, Garrick said. At first, they seemed pleased. A match between the Alpha King and the daughter of a respected beta was politically sound. They gave us their blessing. His jaw tightened. What they didn't know, what I didn't know, was what you really were. A Luna Queen candidate, Leora whispered. Yes, but that information was hidden. Your mother had made sure of it before she died, had bound your power so deep that even you didn't know it existed. Garrick's hands clenched into fists. For 4 years, we were happy. We lived in the capital. You trained as a healer. We were planning our formal bonding ceremony. His voice cracked. And then you got sick. Leora's breath caught. Sick? Your wolf started to emerge, Celeste interjected quietly. The binding your mother had placed was meant to last only until you were mature enough to control the power safely. But when it began to break, when your true nature started to surface. The council panicked, Garrick finished. They realized what you were. Realized that my mate wasn't just some beta's daughter, but a Luna Queen with enough power to challenge their authority. His silver eyes blazed with old fury. So they acted. They convinced me that you needed specialized healing, that there was a sickness in your wolf that required isolation and intensive treatment. They took you away and his voice broke. I let them. I trusted them because I thought they were trying to help you. But they weren't, Leora said, the pieces clicking into place with horrible clarity. No, they were performing the binding ritual, breaking your connection to your wolf, erasing your memories of me, rewriting your entire past. Garrick's face was twisted with anguish. By the time I realized what they'd done, it was too late. You were gone, sent back to your pack with no memory of me, no memory of our years together, nothing but a carefully constructed false history that made you believe you'd never left home. And you couldn't go after her, Roman said quietly. Because the council threatened to kill her if I tried, Garrick finished. They showed me the binding they'd placed on her heart, one that would stop beating the moment I came near her. He looked at Leora, and the pain in his eyes was bottomless. So I stayed away. I let you believe I'd never existed. I let you meet Theron, watched you build a life with him, and I did nothing because the alternative was your death. Leora felt like her chest was being crushed. And then Elena died. And then Elena died, Garrick repeated. The council's second attempt to neutralize you. When suppressing your power wasn't enough, they tried to sever your connection to your wolf permanently. But you fought back, your power broke through despite the binding, and Elena was killed in the backlash. His expression hardened. And suddenly, you were vulnerable. Rejected by Theron. Cast out by your pack. Alone. Which gave you the opportunity to finally break the binding without killing you, Garrick said. The council thought they'd won. Thought they'd broken you so completely that you'd never be a threat again. They stopped watching so carefully. His eyes blazed. That's when I started planning. I had Celeste brought in secretly to study the binding. I gathered allies among the packs who were tired of the council's corruption. And I waited for the perfect moment to strike. The great choosing, Leora realized. The great choosing, Garrick confirmed. I knew if I claimed you publicly, if I made you my mate in front of the entire realm, the council wouldn't be able to kill you without starting a war. And once the claim was made, I could begin breaking the binding without them being able to stop me. Except they tried anyway, Roman muttered. Bringing in a truth seeker. Forcing this trial. They played right into our hands, Garrick said with grim satisfaction. They gave us the perfect opportunity to expose their crimes and break the binding in front of witnesses who couldn't be silenced. Leora's mind was reeling. So all of this, the claim, the threats, everything, was a plan you've been building for 3 years? Yes. And you were just going to, what? Break the binding and hope I'd remember loving you. No, Garrick said quietly. I was going to break the binding and hope you'd give me a chance to make you fall in love with me again. His voice dropped. Because I know you don't remember. I know those 4 years mean nothing to you now. But Leora, he took a step toward her. I remember enough for both of us. And I swear to you, if you give me time, I will make you feel even a fraction of what we had before. Leora wanted to scream. Wanted to rage at the unfairness of it all. She'd lost 7 years of her life. For years of happiness she couldn't remember. 3 years of suffering that could have been avoided if someone, if anyone, had just told her the truth. I need to get out of here, she said abruptly. Leora. I need space. I need time. Her voice broke. I need to figure out who I am without everyone watching me and waiting for me to become someone I can't remember being. Garrick's face fell, but he nodded. All right. Whatever you need. No, Marcus rose from where he'd been kneeling, his expression grave. I'm sorry, but that's not possible. Not right now. Excuse me. Garrick's voice dropped to something dangerous. The binding is broken, Marcus said carefully. Which means Leora's full power is now accessible. Power that she doesn't know how to control. Power that could be, he hesitated, volatile. What are you saying? Leora demanded. I'm saying that a Luna Queen's power is immense. And without proper training, without understanding how to channel it, it could be dangerous. Marcus looked genuinely apologetic. Not to you, necessarily. But to everyone around you. He's right, Celeste said quietly. I can feel the power radiating from you even now. It's wild. Untamed. like a storm barely contained. Her wide eyes found Leora's face. You need guidance. Training. Someone who can help you learn control before. A crack split the air. The floor beneath Leora's feet fractured, stones splitting in a web of cracks that spread outward from where she stood. The torches on the walls flared so bright they were nearly blinding. And power, raw, uncontrolled power, surged through the room in a wave that sent everyone except Garrick stumbling backward. Leora gasped, trying to pull the power back, but it was like trying to hold water in her hands. It just kept pouring out of her, responding to her emotions, her fear, her anger, her confusion, and she couldn't make it stop. Breathe. Garrick was suddenly in front of her, his hands on her shoulders. Leora, look at me. Breathe. I can't, it won't. Yes, you can. His silver eyes locked onto hers, steady and sure. You're not out of control. You're just overwhelmed. Your wolf is awake for the first time in 3 years, and she doesn't know her own strength yet. But you do. Deep down, you know how to do this. I don't remember. Then don't try to remember. Just feel. Garrick's voice dropped to that low, soothing rumble. Feel the power inside you. Don't fight it. Don't try to contain it. Just let it be. Let it settle. Leora closed her eyes and tried to do what he said. Tried to stop fighting the wild storm of power coursing through her veins and just accept it. It was like trying to befriend a hurricane. But slowly, so slowly, the power began to calm. The floor stopped cracking. The torches dimmed to normal levels. And Leora felt the chaos inside her settle into something that was still huge, still terrifying, but at least manageable. When she opened her eyes, Garrick was still there. Still steady. Still watching her with that mixture of concern and pride that made her chest ache. Better, he asked softly. A little. Leora's voice came out shaky. But Marcus is right. I don't know how to control this. And if I lose control again, then you'll need to stay here, Garrick said. In the capital. Where there are safeguards and protections. Where I can help you learn control. Where you can watch over me, you mean, Leora said bitterly. Where I can keep you safe, Garrick corrected. From yourself and from anyone who might try to use your current vulnerability against you. Leora wanted to argue. Wanted to insist she didn't need protection or help or anything from anyone. But another crack split the floor beneath her feet, and she had to accept the truth. She was dangerous right now. And until she learned control, she was as much a threat to herself as anyone else. Fine, she said, hating the defeat in her own voice. I'll stay. But she looked at Garrick. I need space. From you. From whatever we were. I can't process all of this with you hovering over me expecting me to remember something I can't. The pain on Garrick's face was visceral. But he nodded. I'll have quarters prepared for you, he said quietly. Separate from mine. You'll have privacy. Guards to ensure your safety, but they'll stay outside. And his voice roughened. I'll stay away unless you ask for me. Thank you. It was inadequate. Everything about this situation was inadequate. But it was all Leora had to offer. As Garrick turned to give orders to Roman, Celeste moved to Leora's side. A word of advice, the truth seeker said quietly. The memories you've lost, they're not gone. They're just buried. And the more time you spend with the Alpha King, the more they'll begin to surface. Is that supposed to make me feel better? Leora asked. No, Celeste said. It's supposed to prepare you. Because when those memories return, they won't come back gently. They'll come back all at once, 4 years of love and loss and pain hitting you like a tidal wave. And you need to be ready for that. Leora's blood ran cold. How do I prepare for something like that? Celeste's wide eyes seemed to see straight through her. You don't. You just survive it. She paused. And you decide whether what you had before is worth fighting for now. Before Leora could respond, Roman appeared at her elbow. Your quarters are ready, he said, his tone carefully neutral. If you'll follow me? Leora glanced back at Garrick one last time. He was standing with his back to her, shoulders tense, radiating a misery so profound it made her wolf whine in distress. She'd hurt him by asking for space, but she'd hurt herself more by staying. So Leora turned away from the male who claimed to have loved her for 7 years, the male she couldn't remember, and followed Roman into the darkness, not knowing that by morning, everything would change again. And the real nightmare was just beginning. I am emotionally compromised right now. They had 4 years together. 4 years of happiness that was stolen from them. And now Leora can't even remember, and Garrick is breaking apart, and I can't. Drop a comment and tell me, do you think Leora's memories will come back? Should she give Garrick a chance even though she doesn't remember their past? And what do you think is coming next? Leora's new quarters were beautiful, and she hated them. They were smaller than Garrick's rooms, but still luxurious. A bedroom with a 4-poster bed draped in silver silk, a sitting area with plush chairs arranged before a fireplace, windows that overlooked the eastern gardens where dawn was just beginning to break. It should have been comforting. Instead, it felt like a prison. Leora stood at the window, watching the sky lighten from black to deep purple to soft pink. She hadn't slept. Couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt the wild power stirring inside her, threatening to break free again. And beneath that, worse, flickers of something that might have been memories. A laugh she didn't recognize as her own. Strong hands pulling her close. Silver eyes looking at her with such tenderness it made her chest ache. I love you. A voice whispered in her mind, deep and rough and achingly familiar. I will always love you, no matter what happens, no matter what they do to us. Leora pressed her forehead against the cool glass, willing the images away. They weren't real memories. They couldn't be. They were just her mind trying to fill in the gaps Garrick had created with his story. Weren't they? A soft knock made her turn. Come in, she called, expecting one of the servants. But it was Celeste who entered, her white eyes somehow finding Leora despite their blindness. You should be resting, the truth seeker said. I can't. Leora wrapped her arms around herself. Every time I try, I see things. Feel things. I don't know if they're real or if my mind is just. They're real, Celeste interrupted gently. She moved to stand beside Leora at the window. The binding is broken, which means the memories it suppressed are beginning to surface. What you're experiencing are fragments, pieces of your past trying to reassemble themselves. It hurts, Leora whispered. Why does it hurt? Because you're not just remembering what you lost, Celeste said. You're feeling what you lost. For years of love and joy and connection, all of it hitting you at once while you're still processing the trauma of the binding and everything that came after. She paused. It's overwhelming. But it's also necessary. I don't want it to be necessary, Leora said. I don't want to remember loving someone I don't know. I don't want to feel grief for a relationship I can't, her voice broke. This isn't fair. None of this is fair. No, Celeste agreed. It isn't. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the sun continue its slow rise. Can I tell you something? Celeste said finally. Something I saw when I looked into your truth? Leora nodded, not trusting her voice. I saw the moment you met him, Celeste said softly. 7 years ago, at that summit. You were standing in a garden, and he approached you with this arrogant confidence that you found instantly annoying. A small smile crossed her face. You told him he looked like he'd swallowed a lemon. And he laughed, actually laughed, and told you that you were the first person in months who'd spoken to him like he was just a man instead of a king. Despite everything, Leora felt her lips twitch. That sounds like something I might say. It was the beginning, Celeste continued. And what came after, the 4 years you spent together, they were extraordinary. I've seen thousands of bonds in my lifetime, but yours, she trailed off. Yours was special. The kind of connection people spend lifetimes searching for. The kind that only comes once. Then why can't I remember it? Leora's voice cracked. If it was so special, so important, Why can't I feel even a fraction of what you're describing? Because the council didn't just erase memories, Celeste said. They severed the emotional connections tied to those memories. Made it so even if the memories returned, the feelings would be gone. It was the cruelest part of the binding, ensuring that even if you somehow broke free, you'd never be able to reclaim what you'd lost. The words hit Leora like a physical blow. So even if I remember everything, she whispered, I'll never feel the same way about him again? Celeste was quiet for a long moment. Then, I didn't say that. Leora turned to stare at her. But you just said. I said the emotional connections were severed. But that doesn't mean they can't be rebuilt. Celeste's white eyes seemed to glow in the dawnlight. Love isn't just memory, Leora. It's choice. It's action. It's looking at someone and deciding over and over again that they're worth fighting for. She paused. You may not remember loving Garrick, but that doesn't mean you can't choose to love him again. How? Leora demanded. How am I supposed to fall in love with someone who knows everything about me while I know nothing about him? How do I? You start over, Celeste said simply. You get to know him as you are now, not as you were then. You give yourself permission to discover him again, to see if the person he is today is someone worth loving. And you let the memories return in their own time, without trying to force them or run from them. And if I decide he's not worth it? Leora asked. If I decide I don't want this bond or this life or any of it? Then you walk away, Celeste said. And he lets you go. Because that's what love is. It's choosing someone's happiness even when it destroys your own. Before Leora could respond, another knock sounded at the door. This time, it was Roman who entered, his expression grave. Forgive the intrusion, he said, but we have a problem. Of course we do, Leora muttered. What now? The packs are in upheaval, Roman said. News of what happened in the judgment hall has spread. Half the alphas are demanding an emergency council to challenge Garrick's authority. The other half are preparing for war. War. Leora's blood ran cold. War against who? Against anyone who threatens the Alpha King's mate, Roman said. The realm is splitting, those loyal to Garrick versus those who believe the Luna Queen candidate is too dangerous to be allowed to live. They're going to try to kill me, Leora realized. They're going to try, Roman corrected. But they'll have to go through Garrick first. And trust me when I say no one is stupid enough to. The window behind Leora exploded. Glass shattered inward as a dark shape hurtled through, landing in a crouch between Leora and the others. A wolf, massive and black, with eyes that glowed an unnatural red. Not a natural wolf. An assassin. Roman was moving instantly, shifting into his own wolf form and lunging at the intruder. Celeste stumbled backward, her white eyes wide with shock. And Leora stood frozen as the black wolf turned those red eyes on her. The false queen must die, a voice hissed in her mind, not spoken aloud, but projected directly into her consciousness. The prophecy must be stopped. The wolf lunged. Leora didn't think. Didn't plan. She just reacted. Power exploded from her in a shockwave that sent the black wolf flying backward through the broken window. The creature twisted midair, landing on the garden path below with impossible grace, and then it was running, disappearing into the morning shadows before Roman could follow. Leora stood trembling, staring at her hands, feeling the power still crackling beneath her skin like lightning barely contained. What was that? She whispered. A Shadowborn, Roman said grimly, shifting back to human form. Blood dripped from a cut on his shoulder where the assassin's claws had caught him. Ancient wolves corrupted by dark magic. They're assassins, the kind you hire when you want someone dead and you don't care about the cost. Who would? Leora started, but the answer was obvious. The council. The ones who escaped trial. Not just them, Celeste said, her voice tight. Shadowborn require payment in more than gold. Whoever hired that assassin gave up something precious. Something irreplaceable. Her white eyes found Leora's face. Someone wants you dead badly enough to sacrifice their own soul. The words sent ice through Leora's veins. We need to get you somewhere safe, Roman said. Somewhere fortified where? No. Leora's voice came out stronger than she felt. She looked at Roman, at Celeste, at the shattered window and the destruction her power had caused. Running isn't going to solve this, she said. Hiding isn't going to make them stop. They'll just keep coming, keep sending assassins and Shadowborn and whatever else they can throw at me until I'm dead. She took a breath. So we end this. Now. Leora, you don't understand, Roman started. I understand perfectly, Leora interrupted. The council is afraid of me. Afraid of what I represent. Afraid that a Luna Queen with real power will upset their carefully controlled order. Her eyes blazed gold. So we show them exactly what they should be afraid of. And how do you propose we do that? Roman demanded. By calling their bluff, Leora said. By demanding a formal challenge. Me against whoever the council puts forward as their champion. Winner takes control of the realm. That's insane, Roman said flatly. You can't even control your power yet. You'd be walking into a death trap. Maybe, Leora agreed. Or maybe it's time I stopped being afraid of what I am and started using it. Garrick will never allow, Roman started. Garrick doesn't get to decide, Leora said, and there was steel in her voice now. This is my fight. My life. My choice. She turned to Celeste. Tell me honestly, if I challenge the council, do I have any chance of winning? Celeste was silent for a long moment, her white eyes distant as if seeing something beyond this room. You have more than a chance, she said finally. You have power the likes of which this realm hasn't seen in generations. But power without control is dangerous. And power without purpose is meaningless. She paused. If you're going to do this, you need to know why you're fighting. Not for Garrick. Not for some destiny you didn't choose. But for yourself. I'm fighting, Leora said quietly, because I'm tired of being a victim. Tired of letting other people decide who I am and what I'm worth. She looked at the shattered window, at the evidence of the power she'd unleashed without even trying. The council made me into something they were afraid of. So I'm going to give them a reason to be terrified. A slow smile crossed Celeste's face. Then I'll help you. And Roman sighed heavily. I'll try to keep Garrick from doing something stupid when he finds out about this plan. Thank you. Leora turned back to the window, to the rising sun and the capitals spreading out below. Somewhere out there, the council was plotting her death. Somewhere out there, wolves were taking sides in a war she hadn't asked for. And somewhere in this castle, Garrick was probably feeling the moment she'd unleashed her power, probably already running toward her, desperate to make sure she was safe. The thought made her chest tighten. She still didn't remember loving him. Still didn't feel the connection Celeste described. But she was starting to understand something important. Whether or not she remembered the past, she had to make a choice about the future. Run and hide and let the council continue destroying lives like they'd destroyed hers. Or stand and fight and show them exactly what a Luna Queen was capable of. The door burst open. Garrick stood in the doorway, his chest heaving like he'd run the entire way from his quarters. His silver eyes were wild, frantic, searching the room until they landed on Leora. I felt, he gasped. Your power, are you hurt? What happened? An assassin, Roman said. Shadowborn. They came through the window. Leora destroyed them with a single blast. Garrick's face went white. Shadowborn? That means his eyes snapped to Leora. We're leaving. Right now. I'm taking you somewhere safe, somewhere they can't. No. The words stopped him cold. Leora, you don't understand the danger. I understand perfectly, she said. And I'm done running. She moved toward him, watching as hope and fear warred in his expression. I'm challenging the council. A formal duel for control of the realm. And I need your help to do it. Absolutely not, Garrick said immediately. You're not ready. You barely have control of your power. They'll slaughter you. Then train me, Leora said. You keep telling me we were together for 4 years. That means you know me, you know how I move, how I fight, how my power works. So teach me. Help me remember what I've forgotten. No, Garrick's voice was raw. I won't help you walk into your own execution. Even if it's the only way to end this? Leora challenged. Even if it means the council keeps hunting me forever? Keeps hiring assassins and Shadowborn and destroying anyone who gets close to me? She took another step toward him. They'll kill you too, Garrick. Eventually. Because as long as I'm alive, you'll be trying to protect me. And they know that's your weakness. You're not a weakness, Garrick said fiercely. You're your mate, Leora finished. I know. You've made that very clear. She met his silver eyes steadily. But I need to know something. When you look at me, do you see me? Or do you see the woman you lost 7 years ago? Garrick flinched as if she'd struck him. Because if it's the second one, Leora continued quietly, then we're never going to work. You'll spend forever trying to recreate something that's gone, and I'll spend forever trying to be someone I can't remember being. She paused. But if you can look at me, the broken, angry, terrified version standing in front of you, and see someone worth knowing, then maybe we have a chance. Leora. So which is it? She demanded. Am I the woman you loved? Or am I someone new? Garrick stared at her for a long moment, something crumbling in his expression. Then he crossed the distance between them in 2 strides and pulled her into his arms. You're both, he said, his voice breaking. You're the woman I loved and the woman I'm falling in love with all over again. You're every moment we shared and every moment we haven't had yet. He pulled back just enough to cup her face in his hands. And you're right. I have been trying to see you as you were instead of who you are. Because it was easier than accepting that I lost those years. That I lost you. Tears burned behind Leora's eyes. I don't know if I'll ever remember, she whispered. The memories are coming back, but the feelings Celeste says they might be gone forever. So I don't know if I'll ever love you the way I apparently did before. Then we'll find a new way, Garrick said. A better way. One that doesn't depend on the past, but builds toward a future. His silver eyes blazed. And if you want to challenge the council, if you want to fight for your right to exist and be powerful and be free, then I'll train you. I'll teach you everything I know. And I'll stand beside you when you face them. Even if it means I might lose? Leora asked. Even then, Garrick said. Because you're right, hiding isn't living. And I didn't fight for 3 years to get you back just so you could spend the rest of your life afraid. Leora felt something crack open in her chest, not a memory, but something new. Something that felt like hope. Okay, she whispered. Then let's do this. Garrick's lips curved into the first real smile she'd seen from him. When do we start? Now, Leora said. She looked at the shattered window, at the evidence of power she barely understood. Because whoever hired that Shadowborn isn't going to wait for me to be ready. They're going to keep coming. So I need to be strong enough to face them when they do. You already are, Garrick said softly. You just don't know it yet. He released her face, but kept one hand wrapped around hers, that now familiar gesture that grounded her even when everything else felt uncertain. Come on, he said. We have work to do. As they moved toward the door, Leora caught Celeste's eye. The truth seeker was smiling, a knowing, satisfied smile that suggested she'd seen this moment coming all along. Choose, Celeste had said. Choose to fall in love again. Leora didn't know if she was ready for that. But she was ready to try. And sometimes, that was enough. 3 days. That's all the time Garrick gave Leora to prepare before he sent word to the council. The Luna Queen accepts your challenge. 3 days hence, at the Proving Grounds. Winner claims the realm. 3 days to learn control over power she'd never known she possessed. 3 days to master techniques she should have spent years perfecting. 3 days to become someone strong enough to survive what was coming. It should have been impossible. But Leora discovered something during those 3 days of brutal training, when you stopped being afraid of your own power, when you stopped fighting against what you were and started embracing it. Impossible became inevitable. The Proving Grounds were ancient. Built before the current packs existed, carved into a natural amphitheater of stone in the mountains north of the capital. Thousands of wolves had gathered to witness the challenge, some loyal to Garrick, others allied with the council, most simply drawn by the spectacle of watching history unfold. Because this wasn't just a duel. This was a reckoning. Leora stood at the center of the grounds, feeling the weight of thousands of eyes on her. She wore simple fighting leathers, black and reinforced, designed for movement rather than show. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight braid. And around her neck, she wore a silver chain Garrick had given her that morning. "It was your mother's," he'd said quietly. "I've been keeping it safe, waiting for the right moment to return it." The pendant was small, a crescent moon wrought in silver, but the moment Leora had touched it, she'd felt power hum through her bones. Not her own power. Her mother's. A final gift from a woman who died protecting the secret of what her daughter was. Now Leora stood in the center of the grounds, that pendant warm against her skin, and waited for her opponent to be revealed. The council had arrived in force, the remaining 7 members who hadn't been arrested for conspiracy. They sat in the viewing gallery, their expressions ranging from satisfaction to nervousness. Lord Cedric was not among them. He'd been executed 2 days ago for his role in Elena's death and the binding ritual. Theron had watched his father die, and then he'd disappeared. No one had seen him since. Leora tried not to think about that. Tried not to feel pity for the male who'd rejected her so cruelly. She had bigger problems. Citizens of the realm. Marcus's voice rang out across the grounds. He'd positioned himself as the council's spokesman, a calculated move to distance himself from the conspiracy while maintaining authority. "We gather today to witness a challenge that will determine the future of our realm. The Luna Queen candidate has claimed the right to rule alongside our Alpha King. But such power must be proven." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "Therefore," Marcus continued, "the council has selected a champion to test her worthiness. If she defeats our champion, her claim will be recognized. But if she falls," he paused for dramatic effect, "then the prophecy that has plagued us will be revealed for what it is, a lie. And the realm will return to the natural order." "The natural order where you control everything?" Garrick's voice cut through the gathering, sharp and cold. He stood at the edge of the arena, Roman beside him, both of them radiating barely contained fury. "Let's call this what it is, Marcus. You're trying to execute my mate because you're terrified of what she represents. Of what we represent together. We're ensuring stability," Verena interjected. "A Luna Queen with untrained power is a threat to—" "The only threat here," Garrick interrupted, "is to your corruption. But fine. Let's play your game. Send out your champion." His silver eyes blazed. "And when Leora defeats them, I want your sworn oath that this ends. No more assassins. No more conspiracies. You recognize her as Luna Queen, or you forfeit your positions on the council entirely." Marcus's jaw tightened. But after a moment, he nodded. "Agreed," he said. "And if she falls, you will accept a mate of our choosing. One who won't threaten the balance of power." "She won't fall," Garrick said flatly. "Then you have nothing to worry about." Marcus turned to address the crowd. "Bring forth the champion." The gates at the far end of the grounds opened, and Leora's heart stopped. Because the figure that walked through those gates, tall and powerful, moving with lethal grace, was someone she recognized. Theron. He'd changed in the 3 days since his father's execution. His golden hair was darker, streaked with shadows that shouldn't exist. His eyes, once blue, now held flecks of the same unnatural red she'd seen in the Shadow-born assassin. "No," Leora breathed. "They didn't." "They did," Celeste's voice came from beside her. The Truth Seeker had positioned herself at the edge of the arena, close enough to observe, but far enough to stay out of the fight. They offered him a deal. Power in exchange for service. Revenge against the woman he blames for destroying his family. But that power, Leora stared at Theron in horror. "That's dark magic. It'll corrupt him. Destroy him." "He knows," Celeste said quietly. "He doesn't care. He wants you dead more than he wants to live." Leora felt sick. Theron had been cruel to her. Had rejected her and let his pack tear her apart. But he didn't deserve this. Didn't deserve to have his soul corrupted by the same dark magic that created Shadowborn. I can't fight him, she said. Not like this. He made his choice, Garrick said, suddenly at her side. His hand found hers, squeezing gently. I know it's not fair. I know you don't want to hurt him. But Leora, his voice dropped. He's not the man you knew anymore. The moment he accepted that power, he gave up his humanity. What's standing in that arena isn't Theron. It's a weapon the Council created to destroy you. Then I'll break the weapon, Leora said, her voice hardening. And save what's left of him if I can. And if you can't? Leora met Garrick's silver eyes. Then I'll do what I have to do to survive. Pride flashed across Garrick's face. He leaned down and pressed his forehead to hers, a gesture of trust and connection that made her wolf purr. Remember what I taught you, he murmured. Your power isn't just destruction. It's creation. It's healing. It's choice. He pulled back to look at her. Don't fight his darkness with more darkness. Fight it with light. Leora nodded, not entirely sure what he meant, but trusting him anyway. Garrick stepped back, rejoining Roman at the edge of the arena. And Leora turned to face Theron. He was staring at her with such hatred it was like a physical thing, hot and visceral and utterly consuming. You destroyed everything, he said, his voice rougher than she remembered. My father. My sister. My life. All of it gone because of you. I didn't kill Elena, Leora said quietly. Your father did. He used her for a ritual he knew might fail. He sacrificed her to maintain the Council's power. Lies, Theron snarled. You. I know you don't believe me, Leora interrupted. I know you need someone to blame, and I'm an easy target. But Theron, she took a step toward him. This power they've given you? It's killing you. I can see it. The corruption's spreading through your veins. The way your wolf is being consumed by something that isn't natural. I don't care, Theron said. As long as I live long enough to watch you die. Then you're going to be disappointed, Leora said. Because I'm not dying today. Marcus's voice rang out again. The challenge begins, now. Theron moved. He was faster than any wolf should be, faster than Leora's eyes could track. One moment he was across the arena, the next he was in front of her, his hand wrapped around her throat and lifting her off the ground. The crowd gasped. Leora choked, clawing at his grip, feeling the unnatural strength in his fingers. The dark magic had made him powerful, far more powerful than he'd been as a beta. You're weak, Theron hissed, his red-flecked eyes boring into hers. All that supposed Luna Queen power, and you can't even. Leora stopped fighting his grip. Instead, she placed both hands on his chest. And pushed. Not with physical strength. With power. Golden light exploded from her palms, slamming into Theron and sending him flying backward. He hit the arena wall with enough force to crack stone, then slumped to the ground, gasping. Leora landed in a crouch, rubbing her throat and glaring at him. I'm not weak, she said. I'm just getting started. Okay, everyone. I'm going to need you to sound OFF in the comments right now because this fight is about to get intense. Do you think Leora can actually save Theron? Or is he too far gone? Let me know your thoughts. Theron rose slowly, shadows leaking from his skin like smoke. When he looked at her again, there was less humanity in his eyes and more of whatever dark thing the Council had placed inside him. Fine, he said. Then let's see what you're really made of. He shifted. But what emerged wasn't a wolf. It was something else, larger than any natural wolf, with fur that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Its eyes burned red, and shadows writhed around it like living things. A Shadowborn. They'd completed the transformation. Horror crashed through Leora. Theron, no. The creature that had been Theron lunged. Leora barely managed to throw up a shield of power before its claws raked across where her chest had been. The impact sent her skidding backward, her feet tearing furrows in the arena floor. The crowd was screaming now. Some in excitement. Others in fear. And Garrick looked like he was barely restraining himself from leaping into the arena and tearing Theron apart with his bare hands. But he stayed where he was. Because this was Leora's fight. Her choice. Her chance to prove what she was. The Shadowborn circled her, looking for an opening. Leora could feel its malice, its hunger, not for food, but for destruction. The dark magic had consumed everything Theron had been and replaced it with something that only knew how to destroy. Don't fight his darkness with more darkness, Garrick had said. Fight it with light. Leora took a breath. Then she did something that made the entire arena fall silent. She stopped defending. She dropped her shields, opened her arms, and let her power flood outward, not in attack, but in invitation. Golden light poured from her in waves, filling the arena with radiance so bright that wolves had to shield their eyes. And at the center of that light, Leora stood with her head held high and her eyes blazing pure gold. "You're in there somewhere," she called to the Shadowborn. "The real you. The Theron who loved his sister. Who wanted to be honorable. Who made mistakes but didn't deserve this." Her voice rang with power. "So I'm giving you a choice. Let the darkness consume you, become the weapon they made you into, and die as a monster. Or fight. Fight the corruption. Fight your way back. And let me help you." The Shadowborn hesitated. Just for a moment. Just long enough for Leora to see something flicker in those red eyes, something almost human. Then the darkness surged back, and the creature lunged again. But this time, Leora was ready. She didn't dodge. Didn't block. She embraced. Her arms wrapped around the Shadowborn as it collided with her, and her power, that wild, untamed Luna Queen power, flooded into it. Not to destroy. To heal. The Shadowborn shrieked a sound of agony and rage, and something that might have been relief. It thrashed in her grip, trying to break free, but Leora held on. "I've got you," she gasped, feeling the dark magic fighting against her light. "I've got you. You're not alone. You don't have to be this thing they made you. Let me go," Theron's voice echoed in her mind, strangled and desperate. "Let me go, I don't deserve." "No one deserves this," Leora said. "Not even you." And she pushed. Every ounce of power she'd spent 3 days learning to control, every lesson Garrick had taught her about channeling rather than forcing, about healing rather than destroying, she poured it all into Theron. The golden light grew brighter. Brighter. Blinding. And then, the Shadowborn shattered. The dark magic broke apart like glass, dissipating into nothing. And when the light finally faded, what remained wasn't a monster. It was a man. Theron collapsed into Leora's arms, gasping and shaking and human again. His eyes, blue once more, stared up at her with shock and confusion, and something that might have been gratitude. "How?" he choked out. "Luna Queens don't just destroy," Leora said softly, helping him sit up. "We heal. We restore. We choose what happens to the wolves under our protection." She looked up at the council members, at Marcus and Verena and the others who'd been so certain she would fail. Even the ones who don't deserve it. The arena was utterly silent. Then, slowly, someone started clapping. It was Roman. And then Garrick joined him. And then more wolves, dozens, hundreds, until the entire proving grounds echoed with applause and cheers, and the sound of a realm recognizing its Luna Queen. Marcus stood slowly, his face pale. "The challenge is complete," he said, his voice barely carrying over the noise. "The Luna Queen has proven herself." "Damn right she has," Garrick said. He vaulted over the arena wall and crossed to Leora in long strides. When he reached her, he pulled her into his arms and kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't careful. It was desperate and fierce and full of 3 days' worth of terror that she might not survive. And when he finally pulled back, his silver eyes were bright with emotions Leora was only beginning to understand. "You're incredible," he said hoarsely. "You're terrifying," Leora offered. "Perfect," Garrick corrected. "Absolutely perfect." Leora felt her cheeks flush. But before she could respond, Celeste appeared beside them. "The memories are coming," the truth seeker said quietly. "I can see them. The healing you just performed, pouring that much power into another wolf. It broke down the last barriers the council placed on your mind. She looked at Leora with sympathy. You need to prepare yourself. When they hit, they're going to hit hard. How long do I have? Leora asked. Minutes, Celeste said. Maybe less. Garrick's arms tightened around her. I've got you. Whatever happens, I've got you. Leora nodded, trying to brace herself. But nothing could have prepared her for what happened next. The first memory hit like lightning. She was 20 years old, standing in a garden, and someone was approaching her with the kind of arrogant confidence that made her instantly annoyed. You must be the Alpha King, she said, not bothering to bow. And you must be the only person in this entire summit who hasn't tried to impress me, he replied, silver eyes dancing with amusement. Should I be impressed? You look like you swallowed a lemon. He laughed, actually laughed, and the sound made something in her chest flutter. The second memory crashed into the first. She was lying in bed beside him, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat as he traced patterns on her shoulder. What are you thinking about? He asked softly. How strange this is, she admitted. 3 months ago, I didn't know you existed. Now I can't imagine my life without you. Good, he murmured, pressing a kiss to her hair. Because you're stuck with me. Forever. More memories flooded in dozens, hundreds, thousands of moments. Learning to fight alongside him. Healing injured wolves in the capital. Laughing until her sides hurt at something ridiculous he'd said. Crying in his arms when the weight of being Luna Queen became too much. Dancing at a celebration, his hands on her waist and his eyes full of love. Whispering, I love you in the darkness, and hearing him say it back like it was the only truth that mattered. For years of love and joy and life hit her all at once. And Leora shattered. She collapsed, Garrick catching her before she hit the ground. Tears were streaming down her face, not from pain, but from the sheer overwhelming weight of what she'd lost. I remember, she gasped. Garrick, I remember everything. I know, he said, his voice breaking. I know, love. I'm here. I've got you. They took it from us, Leora sobbed. For years. They stole for years. But they didn't destroy it, Garrick said fiercely, cupping her face in his hands and forcing her to look at him. They tried. They bound you and broke you and made you forget. But Leora, we found our way back. We got a second chance that most people never get. And I swear to you, I swear on everything I am, that I will spend the rest of my life making sure those 4 years weren't for nothing. Leora stared at him through her tears. At this male who'd loved her for 7 years. Who'd waited 3 years for a chance to save her. Who'd stood beside her while she learned to be someone new. And she realized something profound. She didn't just remember loving him. She loved him now. The woman she'd been and the woman she'd become, they both chose him. I love you, she whispered. I loved you then. I love you now. I love you in ways I haven't even discovered yet. Garrick's eyes blazed. Say it again. I love you, Leora said, louder this time. Garrick Stormborn, Alpha King, insufferable pain in my ass, I love you. He kissed her again, and this time Leora kissed him back with everything she had. With 4 years of memories. With 3 days of trust built from scratch. With a future that was finally theirs to claim. The crowd erupted in cheers so loud they shook the mountains. And in the viewing gallery, Marcus bowed his head in defeat. The Luna Queen had proven herself. The prophecy was fulfilled. And the realm, for better or worse, would never be the same. 3 months later, the coronation took place under a full moon. It was tradition, Luna Queens were always crowned when the moon was at her fullest, when the ancient magic that bound their kind was strongest. The ceremony was held in the grand hall of the capital, but the doors had been thrown open so that thousands of wolves could witness the moment from the grounds outside. Leora stood before the assembled realm, wearing a gown of silver and white that seemed to capture moonlight itself. Her dark hair had been woven with threads of gold, and around her neck, instead of the elaborate jewels a queen might wear, She wore her mother's crescent moon pendant. Simple. Meaningful. Hers. Garrick stood beside her, already crowned, looking devastating in formal black with silver embroidery that matched her gown. He'd insisted they do this together, not him crowning her as if she needed his permission, but both of them taking their vows to the realm as equals. As partners. As mates. Marcus, who'd managed to keep his position on the newly reformed council by genuinely helping expose the remaining conspirators, stepped forward with the Luna crown. It was delicate and fierce all at once, wrought silver-shaped like moon phases, embedded with stones that glowed with their own inner light. Leora Ashwin, daughter of Adelaide Moonwhisper, Marcus said, his voice carrying across the hall. Do you swear to protect this realm? To lead with wisdom and strength? To use your power not for personal gain, but for the good of all wolves under your rule? I do, Leora said, her voice steady. Do you swear to stand beside the Alpha King as his equal? To challenge him when he's wrong and support him when he's right? To be a partner, not a subject. I do. And do you swear, Marcus continued, something almost like respect in his voice now, to show mercy to those who deserve it, even when they don't deserve it? To choose healing over destruction, light over darkness, and hope over fear? Leora's eyes found Theron in the crowd. He stood near the back, still recovering from the transformation and its reversal. He'd spent the last 3 months in intensive healing, working with Celeste to purge the last traces of dark magic from his system. He'd never be the same. The corruption had left scars that would never fully fade. But he was alive. And he was trying to be better. I do, Leora said. Marcus placed the crown on her head, and power surged. Not just her own power, but something older. Something that connected her to every Luna queen who'd come before, to her mother, and her mother's mother, stretching back through generations of powerful females who'd led with strength and compassion. The crown settled into place, and Leora felt complete in a way she never had before. Then rise, Luna Queen Leora Moonwhisper Stormborn, Marcus said. And may your reign be long and prosperous. The hall erupted in cheers. Garrick took her hand, lacing their fingers together, and turned to face the crowd. The realm has its Luna Queen, he called out, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority and undeniable pride. And anyone who wishes to challenge her claim can face both of us. The cheering grew louder. No one was stupid enough to challenge them now. Not after what Leora had done at the Proving Grounds. Not after she'd turned a Shadowborn back into a man and proven that Luna Queens were more than just destructive power. They were hope. They were change. They were everything the realm needed and hadn't known it was missing. The celebration lasted well into the night. Wolves from every pack filled the capital, drinking and dancing and celebrating the first Luna Queen in 3 generations. Music spilled out from the grand hall into the streets. Food appeared in abundance, tables laden with everything from roasted meats to delicate pastries. It was chaos. It was joy. It was perfect. But eventually, Leora needed a break from the noise and the crowds and the constant stream of wolves wanting to meet their new queen. She slipped away from the celebration, making her way through familiar corridors until she reached the Eastern Gardens. The same gardens she'd looked out on 3 months ago when she'd felt broken and lost and terrified. Now, under the full moon's light, she felt whole. I had a feeling I'd find you here. Leora smiled without turning. You always did know where to find me. Garrick moved to stand beside her, his presence warm and solid and reassuring. He'd removed his formal jacket somewhere along the way and rolled up his sleeves, looking more like the man she remembered from 7 years ago than the intimidating Alpha King everyone else saw. Needed an escape? He asked. Just a moment of quiet, Leora said. She leaned against him, and his arm came around her waist automatically. It's overwhelming. All of it. 3 months ago, I was a broken Omega no one wanted. Now I'm a Luna Queen, and everyone wants a piece of me. We can send them all away if you want, Garrick offered. Tell them the Queen needs rest and lock ourselves in our quarters for a week. Tempting, Leora admitted. But we both know that's not realistic. Not with everything that still needs to be done. The past 3 months had been a whirlwind of change. The council had been completely restructured, the corrupt members arrested or executed, replaced by wolves who actually cared about justice rather than power. The laws surrounding rank and designation had been rewritten to be more equitable. And Leora had established healing centers throughout the realm, places where wolves who'd been broken or bound like she had been could come for help. It was exhausting work. But it was important work. Do you ever regret it? Garrick asked quietly. Taking this path? Choosing to be Luna Queen when you could have walked away? Leora turned to look at him. Do you regret claiming me in that hall? Starting all of this? Never, Garrick said immediately. Not for a single second. Then there's your answer. Leora reached up to cup his face, her thumb brushing across his cheekbone. This isn't the life I would have chosen 3 months ago. But it's the life I'm choosing now. And I'm choosing it with you. Garrick's eyes softened. I love you. I know. Leora smiled. You tell me approximately 17 times a day. Only 17? Garrick pulled her closer. I need to work on that. Aim for 20 at least. Leora laughed, genuine and light and free. The sound still surprised her sometimes. 3 months ago, she hadn't known if she'd ever laugh again. Now it came easily. There's something I need to tell you, Garrick said, his expression growing more serious. Something I've been waiting for the right moment to say. Leora's heart skipped. That sounds ominous. It's not. At least, I hope it's not. Garrick took a breath. The mate bond between us, it's not complete. We claimed each other publicly, and you've accepted the crown, but we haven't. We haven't completed the physical bond. Heat flooded Leora's cheeks. They'd been taking things slowly, rebuilding trust, letting her memory settle, making sure she was choosing him for the right reasons and not just because of what they'd had before. It had been 3 months of sleeping in the same bed, but keeping careful distance. 3 months of stolen kisses and controlled touches. 3 months of wanting more, but being too afraid to take it. I know, Leora said quietly. And I need you to know, Garrick continued, that I will wait as long as you need. A month, a year, a decade, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to pressure you or rush you or make you feel like you owe me anything. The physical bond is important, but it's not more important than you being ready. Leora felt tears sting her eyes, but they were good tears this time. What if I told you, she said softly, that I'm tired of waiting? Garrick went very still. Leora. I remember everything now, she continued. I remember what we had, what we were. And I know what we are now, which is somehow even better because we chose it twice. She stepped closer to him, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. I know completing the bond means tying my life to yours in ways that can never be undone. I know it means our wolves will be permanently connected. And I know, her voice softened. I know it means I'm choosing you. Forever. No take-backs. No second chances if we mess this up. That's a lot of commitment, Garrick said, but there was hope blazing in his silver eyes now. It is, Leora agreed. And 3 months ago, I would have been terrified. But now, she smiled. Now I can't think of anything I want more than to be bound to you in every possible way. You're sure? Garrick asked, and the vulnerability in his voice made her chest ache. Because once we do this. I'm sure, Leora said. I'm absolutely, completely, 100% sure that I want to complete our mate bond. She rose on her toes and kissed him softly. So stop trying to talk me out of it and take me to bed, Alpha King. Garrick let out a sound that was half laugh, half groan. You're going to be the death of me. Probably, Leora agreed. But what a way to go. He swept her up in his arms, which should have been ridiculous and over the top, but instead felt exactly right, and carried her back through the gardens toward their private quarters. Wait, Leora said as they passed the grand hall. Shouldn't we tell someone we're leaving? Roman will probably. Roman, Garrick called out without stopping, is in charge until further notice. What? Roman's voice echoed from somewhere inside the hall. Garrick, you can't just. Watch me, Garrick called back. How long is further notice? Roman demanded. Could be hours, Garrick said. Could be days. Could be. Garrick. Leora smacked his shoulder, her face burning. Everyone can hear you. Good, Garrick said cheerfully. Then they'll know not to disturb us. The last thing Leora heard before they disappeared into the private wing was Roman's exasperated, "I'm surrounded by idiots," and the crowd's laughter. Later, much later, Leora lay in Garrick's arms, both of them boneless and satisfied and connected in ways that went beyond physical. The mate bond thrummed between them now, completed and permanent and perfect. She could feel his emotions as clearly as her own, could sense his presence even when he wasn't in the room, could communicate with him mind to mind in ways that should have been invasive, but instead felt intimate and right. So, Garrick murmured against her hair. Was it worth the wait? Fishing for compliments? Leora asked, amusement coloring her voice. Always. She tilted her head back to look at him. It was perfect. You were perfect. And her voice caught. I can't believe I almost missed this. That I almost let fear and anger and hurt keep me from having this with you. But you didn't, Garrick said, pressing a kiss to her forehead. You fought for it. You fought for us. And that's what matters. Leora snuggled closer, feeling his heartbeat steady and strong beneath her ear. What happens now? Now, Garrick's arms tightened around her. Now we rule together. We rebuild the realm. We deal with whatever political disasters Roman is probably creating without us. And he paused. We live, Leora. We get to actually live without looking over our shoulders. Without waiting for the council to try to separate us. Without fear. That sounds, Leora searched for the right word. Scary, actually. I'm not sure I know how to exist without crisis and danger. Then we'll figure it out together, Garrick said. Just like we've figured out everything else. A comfortable silence fell between them. Then Leora said quietly, I forgive them, you know. The council. The ones who did this to us. Garrick pulled back to look at her, surprise clear on his face. You do. Not because they deserve it, Leora clarified. But because holding on to that anger, that need for revenge, it was eating me alive. And I realized that the best way to show them they failed is to be happy. To build something beautiful out of the ashes they tried to leave us with. She met his eyes. They wanted to break me. To make me believe I was nothing. But I'm not nothing. I'm a Luna Queen. I'm your mate. And I'm enough. Pride blazed in Garrick's expression. You're more than enough. You're everything. 17 times a day is becoming 18, Leora teased. 19 if you count the time I said it in my head just now. Leora laughed, the sound bright and free and hers. She'd lost so much to get here, years of her life, memories that should have been treasured, time with the male she loved. The council had tried to destroy her. Had tried to erase everything that made her powerful and dangerous and herself. But they'd failed. Because Leora Mu Whisper Stormborn wasn't broken. She was reforged. Stronger. Wiser. More powerful than ever before. And she had a future ahead of her that was entirely her own to shape. 1 year later. She has your eyes. Leora looked down at the tiny wolf pup in her arms, barely 3 months old, with dark hair and silver eyes that already blazed with intelligence and mischief. She has your attitude, Leora countered, watching as their daughter tried to grab her mother's pendant with chubby hands. Look at her. Already trying to steal jewelry. That's not stealing, that's claiming what's rightfully hers, Garrick said. He was sitting beside them, one arm around Leora's shoulders, looking at his daughter with such love and wonder that it made Leora's chest tight. She's going to be a terror when she grows up. She's going to be powerful, Leora corrected. And we're going to raise her to use that power wisely. And to not take crap from anyone, Garrick added. Obviously. They'd named her Adelaide, after Leora's mother. It seemed fitting, this tiny girl who already showed signs of inheriting the Luna Queen bloodline, who would grow up knowing exactly what she was and never having to hide it. A knock at the door interrupted the moment. Come in, Garrick called. Roman entered, looking harried but satisfied. The delegation from the Northern Territories has arrived. They're ready to sign the new trade agreements whenever. He stopped, seeing the baby. His expression softened. Is that? Our daughter, Leora confirmed. Adelaide Moo whisper Stormborn. Addie for short. Roman moved closer, peering at the pup with an expression of cautious wonder. She's so small. She won't be for long, Garrick said. Trust me, she's already keeping us up all night with her crying. Not crying, Leora corrected, practicing her commanding voice. At 3 in the morning? Luna queens don't follow schedules. Roman shook his head, but he was smiling. The realm is in so much trouble when she grows up. The realm, Garrick said, pulling Leora and Adelaide closer, is in good hands. And looking around at the family they'd built, at the realm they'd reformed, at the future stretching out before them full of possibility and hope, Leora knew he was right. They'd survived the council's corruption. They'd survived the binding and the betrayal and the years of separation. They'd survived assassination attempts and political machinations, and a challenge that should have killed her. And they'd come out the other side stronger. Together. Whole. I love you, Leora said, the words coming easily now. Both of you. My impossible, stubborn, wonderful family. 19 times, Garrick murmured. I'm losing count, Leora admitted. Good, Garrick said, pressing a kiss to her temple. Then my work here is done. Adelaide made a small sound, not quite a cry, more like a declaration, and both her parents laughed. She definitely has your attitude, Leora said again. She definitely has your power, Garrick countered. Then the realm, Roman said from the doorway, is absolutely, without question, completely doomed. Probably, Leora agreed cheerfully. And as the sun set over the capital, as wolves gathered in the streets below to celebrate another day of peace and prosperity under their Luna Queen's rule, as Adelaide drifted off to sleep in her mother's arms, Leora realized something profound. She'd spent so long believing she was broken, believing she was unworthy, believing she was nothing. But she'd been wrong. She wasn't broken. She was becoming. And the Alpha King hadn't just chosen her despite her flaws, he'd chosen her because of them. Because of her strength, her resilience, her refusal to give up even when everything seemed hopeless. He'd chosen her. And she'd chosen him back. Twice. 3 times if you counted this new life they were building together. And Leora knew, with the certainty that only a Luna Queen could possess, that she'd choose him 1,000 more times. In every lifetime. In every world. And that's it. The Alpha King chose the broken Omega, dared the pack to object, and they built a kingdom together. I'm sitting here crying happy tears, and I need to know, what was your favorite part of this entire story? Was it the moment Garrick first claimed her? The Proving Grounds battle? The memories returning? Baby Adelaide. Tell me everything in the comments. And if you loved this story, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I have so many more stories coming your way, more werewolf romance, more fated mates, more impossible love against all odds. You don't want to miss what's next. Thank you so much for being here with me on this journey. You all are the best pack a storyteller could ask for. Until next time, my loves, stay wild, stay fierce, and remember, you're never broken. You're just becoming.